Welcome to Sisflix, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sisflix are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Nadhya, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together. Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
How's it going? It's a long time no see.
I know. It's going good. I feel like, okay, so by the time this episode releases, it's February. And to me, February is the start of the year. It's like January is the opening credits, right? Like you're just setting the tone, right? You have a little jingle going, you know. It's when you start feeling out like what the rest of your year is going to look like. Is it jolly? Is it a little gloomy? I don't know.
It's the opening narration that becomes an article someone's writing in the movie. Got it.
February feels like, okay, we've kind of settled in. This is what we're doing. Like we've mood boarded the year. And we're getting closer to spring. It's starting to get going.
I like that. That's hopeful. February has always been my least favorite month. Especially like if you live in the Northeast, I can't speak for the rest of the country. It is just the weather. This is when the weather decides.
Oh yeah.
This is when the weather
it's been
fucks
cold
with you. It's been so cold up here. Once we get out of February, that's when I start to feel hope again, like a little bit, you know?
Yes.
I mean, the depression's year round. The depression ain't seasonal here, but that's when I start to feel like a glimmer. Like, oh, the days are getting longer. We'll make it.
Yeah, 2020 kind of fucked it all up for the rest of time.
It sure did.
Fucked up January and February for us.
For most of February, I'm a nightmare to be around. And God forbid my husband wants to celebrate Valentine's Day because I don't. So,
you know, Valentine's never been a big thing for me.
Same, yeah.
I mean, we still love love. We still love love and enjoy love. And it's one of the few days a year where I can make my husband watch a romantic movie with me. Like, no. It's Valentine's Day. We're watching a chick flick.
I think one year for Valentine's Day, in a very much a COVID year, I think it was 2021, Ryan and I got wine drunk while watching Crazy Stupid Love.
That's a good one.
And we still bring that up as a really fun night, which I don't know what that says about us. That's like saying it out loud. It's a little embarrassing, but
that sounds like the most fun.
we had one bottle of very mediocre wine. Just got a little rosy cheeked and laughed at Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling, and that was that. It was a good night. Yeah, we do love love. I mean, don't get us wrong. Something that's really exciting about this particular February for people that like romantic stuff and books and movies and TV is that the book One Day by David Nicholls is going to be premiering on Netflix as a limited series on February 8th, later this week, the week that you are hearing this episode. And in honor of that, we thought it would be a fun idea to take one of Paola's most favorite stories, romantic stories, decade-spanning love stories, dig into it a little bit more, rewatch it, and talk about it as we prepare for the absolute emotional torture that it will be to watch this miniseries.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
So One Day is a story that spans decades. It's about 20 years. It focuses on one day of each of these years. So you only meet your character for this one specific day every year, which is July 15th, which is known as St. Swithin's Day.
Known where? Not here.
London.
Not here. It ain't.
In England. When you watch the movie, there's so many gaps where you're like, what? So wait, hold on. We don't get to see this really important event. You kind of just brush by it. You just meet them again the next year, July 15th, and you kind of catch up with their story. So I'm really hoping that in the miniseries you get a bit more of what happens in those in between, what happens to them individually in that in between, because I feel like in the book you get a little bit more of that, right? Like
You do.
you get a bit more of their inner dialogue.
You get glimpses of their memories. You get a little bit of like, well, a few months ago when I saw so and so, this happened. Whereas you don't really get that in the movie, just for time's sake, just to condense. And the book is definitely distilled down to its most important parts for this movie, just to make sure that the most important things are captured. There are some changes from book to movie that I think make a lot of sense and are really appropriate. There are some changes from book to movie that I wish they had kept. But overall, I mean, I think this is a really faithful adaptation. So this movie came out in 2011. The book was released in 2007, I believe. And as we mentioned before, it's written by author David Nicholls, who's really, really nice. At least on Instagram, he was really nice. And he starts the story off in 1988 and terminates it in 2007, 2008. So it's around 19, 20 years. And the writing style is unique, but I loved it. I wish I had read this book earlier in my life. I wish that I had a better understanding of this book even before the first time that I watched this movie, 2011. I was barely 18. So it's just such a great book. It's so smart and witty and relatable in like kind of painful, like aching ways. As much as I've never been a white British person who went to school in Scotland, there are so many common experiences and common emotions that he taps into. Angst, dissatisfaction, longing, pining, disappointment, and like failure, or what you believe is a failure, and ways you can become successful, and creating a new life for yourself, rebuilding yourself. It's really just this exploration of growing up.
It really is just capturing the universal experience of coming of age in a time when you feel like you have to meet so many expectations, or expectations that you set on yourself, and how you visualize your life. And then you meet these people at a young age and you get to learn what they expect of themselves through their lives. And then you see them go through their lives and see how those expectations were met or not. And even as grown-ups, you look back at when you were a kid and you're like, oh man, I used to think this, I used to think that. As a kid, you'd never think that at the ripe age of your mid-30s, that you would still be learning and changing and adapting. And like when you're in your early 20s, you look at your 30s and 40s like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be
settled,
I'm gonna be
figured
done
out.
Like by then I'm gonna be successful, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that, I'm gonna have the house with what, you know, whatever it is.
To set the scene for you a little bit with regard to the book, right? Like in case you haven't read it, you're thinking of reading it, whatever, we are going to absolutely just blow through this plot for you. So I hope we're all aware of this. We all know where we're at. The book is told from the third person perspective, but you really do switch frequently between the main characters' points of view. So one paragraph will be focusing on the female protagonist and what she's thinking. The next paragraph will be focusing on the male protagonist and what he's thinking. And you say that out loud and it sounds chaotic. But I think one of the things that make the book so successful using that like writing construction is that you see both characters act contrary to their thoughts. They'll literally be thinking identical thoughts and you're kind of like, just fucking talk to each other. Just talk about it. Just say the thing you're thinking. And outwardly they're both like, yeah, so anyway, I was thinking we would do this other thing. And they're lying. And like, I love that because that's so much of human interaction. Hiding your thoughts, hiding your feelings, acting contrary to those thoughts and feelings.
Well, being self-conscious about how you feel and not wanting to deal with rejection and this fear of the thing not working out, and how you let that hold you back and second guess yourself. And so you play it safe. You kind of see how that makes you go round and round in a circle, you know, until the day you decide like, no, I'm going to be straightforward about this.
Absolutely. That process of maturing doesn't happen by the time you're 18. That takes the rest of your life. I mean, if you're lucky, you figure it out by your middle age, but a lot of people don't.
So you see how these two different personalities deal with the unexpected changes or the unexpected obstacles that come up and challenge them. So that's interesting to see. So
let's dive into a little bit of One Day, the people behind making it, and what the fuck it's about.
So One Day was released in 2011. When I saw One Day, I saw it once it hit streaming early on. So I must have watched it late 2011.
Oh, wow.
Or early 2012. And I remember seeing this movie and I was like, oh my gosh. No, it stayed with me for so long. And I didn't even know it was based on a book till years later.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I would have been used to doing my deep dives by then, but
we grow and we learn.
We grow.
It was directed by Lone Scarfig, who also directed An Education, which stars Carey Mulligan. And Lone Scarfig is a Danish director, producer, and writer who has had an incredibly long career. So the screenplay for One Day is actually written by David Nicholls, the author of One Day himself, which is so cool. Bestie of the pod, David Nicholls. Just kidding. But
yes, he actually messaged us because we tagged them on something referring to One Day. Super sweet. I think they're actually doing promo for the show. So I'm excited to see him and the actors for One Day the series or the miniseries get some more attention.
Yeah.
While they go on their promo tour.
I feel like the marketing has been, I've barely seen a damn thing.
No, yeah. So hopefully they get a bit more press.
Honestly, it might be a little bit of a sleeper hit. I feel like that happens on Netflix sometimes. They'll kind of drop a series and then it just kind of like lights up and just kind of picks up within a couple days. And the buzz online will make everybody kind of watch it.
Well, we'll see. I hope it's good.
If it has the endorsement of the author, I mean, fingers crossed, because again, I love the source material. His book was so funny and poignant and good. And him endorsing both the movie version and the miniseries is incredibly encouraging. So I'm very excited about that. So this movie stars as our main characters, starring Anne Hathaway as Emma Morley and Jim Sturgess as Dexter Mayhew. So Anne Hathaway, who we all fucking know and love because she's had like a 25-year-long career, star of Princess Diaries, star of a million fucking other movies. Princess Diaries was really like when she first started. She is...
Devil's Wears Prada was another big hit for her.
Yes.
And I think got her more recognized.
As a grown-up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Brokeback Mountain, she had a supporting role in that. She was incredible.
It was great.
And I'm just naming small shit. I bet if you asked her about her career, she would name a million other movies. She was also in Les Mis, which is one of Paola's favorite musical movies.
One of my favorite musicals. Absolutely. That's when I realized that this woman has pipes. She has such a beautiful voice. No, yeah, I'm an Anne Hathaway fan.
Yeah.
I grew up seeing her on screen.
One of the internet's favorite things to say about Anne Hathaway is that's how you age when you're unproblematic. Which
She's
I
freaking gorgeous.
Love and respect. Yeah, so she is an American actress, right? Anne Hathaway grew up in little old New Jersey, right near where we grew up.
I had a friend that went to high school with her.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. She assumes a British accent for this movie. Again, Anne Hathaway is like a very skilled actress. I don't think her British accent was amazing.
But she's done British roles a lot.
Yes.
I mean, she was Jane Austen in Becoming Jane. And in Les Mis, she's British.
I think in other roles where she has a British accent, she's more successful. I think this...
Well, not British. She's supposed to be French, but they put on...
they put on the British accent for English,
They put on the accent for...
Yeah, like how Disney movies, the main character's American,
Europe,
the villain is British. Everyone else is from where they're from. So her character is meant to be from Yorkshire. This is all very like working class and not posh sounding. Whereas Dexter, who is played by Jim Sturgess, is supposed to be incredibly posh from outside of London. Like he's a rich boy who's always been rich and went to fancy schools.
He speaks fancy.
He speaks fancy. She does not speak fancy. In the book, this contrast is mentioned like a handful of times to where you're kind of familiar with it. And obviously, I'm sure if you are English, the little jokes that they make that go right over our dumb American heads, you will understand and contextualize in their places in society. But in the movie, I think they kind of have to glaze over it a little bit because Anne Hathaway is doing an accent. It kind of slips in and out. I'm not criticizing it too much.
Yeah, I can't be much of a judge.
Guys, if you give us $50, Paola will do an accent for you.
Oh no.
It will be it'll warm your heart for years, I think. Paola's accent work is one of a kind.
I have 2 accents, and that I could give you Dominican from New York and Dominican from New Jersey. That's all I got for you.
And those who know, they're distinct. So, okay, all of that about Anne Hathaway. Hathaway.
You know, I mean, and my girl's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
I'll speak for myself here. I cannot wait to see her opposite Nicholas Galatine.
Guys.
In May. I cannot wait for the idea of you. And then we have Jim Sturgess. I saw him for the first time in Across the Universe.
Yes, me too.
Till this day, I can rewatch Across the Universe.
Yeah, that might have to be one we do one day because both Paola and I had like a huge Across the Universe phase. He stars as Dexter Mayhew. Fun fact that I just found on like IMDb, so don't like come at me for the veracity of this, is that Anne Hathaway, after she was cast, had like a huge hand in picking who she wanted to star opposite, so as Dexter, and she kind of like handpicked Jim Sturgess to play Dexter, and they were able to develop like their chemistry. And
I wonder if that's a thing that she does with all or most of her movies, because she did that for The Idea of You as well. She pretty much auditioned who was going to be her romantic interest, which, can you imagine? Like, have me choose who I want to make out with? Bitch.
It's so funny. So, music in this movie is by Rachel Portman, the first female composer to win the Academy Award for Best Score, which was for 1996's Emma, starring Gwyneth Paltrow. She also composed scores for The Duchess, starring Keira Knightley, Grey Gardens, fantastic score, Never Let Me Go, also starring Keira Knightley, Carey Mulligan, and Andrew Garfield. The Lake House, that's a Sisflix fave, baby.
That is a Sisflix fave.
Ooh!
You know what? I'm going to say underrated, but it's
rated.
Not that good, but it's good. It's
rated. We love it.
Not great, but I fucking love it.
So she's also composed scores for Mona Lisa's Smile, has had a very long and prolific career, and was also, in addition to being the first female composer to win the Academy Award for the score, was also the first female composer to win a Primetime Emmy for a score they composed, which is just, I mean, that was it like in the 90s and 2000s.
Get it, Rachel Portman.
Fucking love that.
The official score for One Day is one of my favorite all-time scores. Mm-hmm. The way it builds and it just takes you on this journey with them is such a sweet, romantic score. I love it. It's up there with like Dario Marianelli. Like,
the melody, I think, that prevails throughout the movie is really recognizable. It's really sweet. It's simple. I love the score for this movie. The costume design for this movie is by Odile Dix-Miro, who also did the costume design for Last Night in Soho, which is a movie that came out, I think, 2019, starring Anya Taylor-Joy. She did the costume design for Brooklyn, which stars Saoirse Ronan, which is a movie that I fucking loved. Oh, that movie
is such a sweet movie.
Oh, so good. And did the costume design for An Education. You're seeing a theme here where you're seeing a lot of the same people kind of repetitively working together, which is something I love. I just love when people are friends.
And they call each other up and like, hey, let's work together.
Literally, again. Like, they're like, oh, remember when you did this movie with me? Wasn't that so fun and cool? Do another one. Like, I love that. Production design is by Mark Tildesley, who's also known for Banshees of Inisherin, which was like a huge Oscar contender darling a couple years ago when it came out. Phantom Thread, also a huge Oscar darling. That one was starring Daniel Day-Lewis. And The Constant Gardener. Casting is done by Lucy Bevan, and the reason that I'm bringing that up, we don't usually mention who does the casting. She cast Barbie.
Ooh,
isn't that so much fun?
I love how Barbie was casted. I think nobody has any complaints of how Barbie was casted.
Oh, it's so good. And in addition to Anne Hathaway having a big hand in Jim Sturgess being cast as Dexter, Anne Hathaway was almost not cast because the director, Lone Scarfig, really wanted to cast a British actress. She didn't want somebody to be doing an accent.
Sense.
Anne Hathaway met with her, really wanted to do the movie, was really passionate about the project, and ended up being cast. And I think Emma as a character, especially after reading the book, Anne Hathaway makes perfect fucking sense as Emma. So now we're going to roll into the scorecard. Paola, hit us.
So this is a straight love story.
Straight as hell.
Does it have source material? Yes. It is based on the beautiful book One Day by David Nicholls. We recommend if you like yearning, if you like coming of age, if you like, just life lessons and reflections, you would enjoy it. Story by a man and a woman. This is a story by a man. And the movie's directed by a woman. Trope. Okay, so here's the thing. So the obvious trope is friends to lovers, right?
A favorite here at Sysflix Corp.
It's right there up with enemies to lovers.
I fuck so hard with enemies to lovers. Love it.
However, I will argue these motherfuckers ain't start off as friends. They didn't want to be friends.
Yeah.
They settled for friends because of timing. For me, this is more unrequited love. And not even in the sense that they don't love each other. They do love each other, but they love each other in different ways.
Across different times.
So they don't love each other the same at the same time. They're not available for each other at the same time. A lot of this revolves around timing.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons that this story is successful rather than just annoying, because I, at least personally, I'm not going to speak for Paola, I usually find misunderstanding tropes or timing was off and it didn't work. I find stories like that incredibly frustrating. I will check out pretty early. But one of the reasons this one holds you and you stay invested in the characters is because they have full independent lives. They remain part of each other's lives, as with these waves of being very, very involved and being less involved and being kind of in love and being less in love. But they have entire other lives that they construct that are meaningful to them, that shape them. And I think a lot of times books that rely on timing, misunderstanding, only focus on the yearn.
There's so much dimension past just their love story, which makes the movie rewatchable, and also the book, you can revisit it. Is that it? We're getting into the movie?
Let's get into the fucking movie.
Oh, shit. Yo. Shit. Small back of the book. Oh, the back of the book. Oh, shit.
The literal back of the book.
So with this being an adaptation of a book, I'm going to give you the actual back of the book summary.
Let's go.
And this is what it says. 15th July 1988, Emma and Dexter meet for the first time on the night of their graduation. Tomorrow, they must go their separate ways. So where will they be on this day next year? And the year after that? And every year that follows.
Ooh, mystery.
IMDb, however, here's their summary so you can get a little bit more nitty gritty and decide if you want to listen to the rest of the story. Emma and Dexter meet on the night of their university graduation. We see them every year on the anniversary of that date, July 15th. Emma is smart, but success doesn't come quickly for her. Whereas for Dexter, success and women come very easily. Through the years, they grow apart as their lives take different directions and they meet other people. But as they grow apart from those other people and their lives start taking opposite directions again, Emma and Dexter find that they belong with each other.
Ooh.
Look at that. And the slogan for this book and movie and show is 20 years, 2 people.
So let's get started, y'all. Let's fucking go. Let's go. Let's get into this fucking plot summary and movie, baby. Movie opens on Anne Hathaway swimming in a pool. in a very plain black bathing suit, gets out of the pool, gets dressed. It seems like this is a very normal, regular day for her, just based on how she's carrying herself. Gets dressed, still has wet hair from the pool, hops up on that bike, and we get a date flashing on the screen as we are watching her depart on this bike, July 15th, 2006. And then we start to get a scroll back in the dates.
I like how they roll back the date. I think it's clever, letting you know, okay, we're starting at this point. This is our starting point.
We're starting in the future.
We're going to take you back. And you see the date kind of scroll backwards. It's going to take you back to a point in time.
Right. July 15th remaining constant. It scrolls back to 1988.
Paola's year.
1988 Paola year. Not to be mistaken for 1989 Taylor Swift year. This is strictly a Paola year. Very blue lit graduating class celebrating at dawn. They're wearing their caps and gowns. It's 4 people kind of standing around this square looking incredibly drunk, one of whom is Anne Hathaway, one of whom is Jim Sturgess. And they're basically kind of off to the side watching their friends make out and just being like, guys, you're leaving me alone with this person.
Right. Like they're all together in a group and then everyone's drunk. They've all come from celebrating their graduation or from a party celebrating their graduation. It's dawn. So they decide to introduce themselves, or Jim Sturgis' character introduces himself to Emma. And she's like, yeah, I know you already.
Yeah. So as he introduces himself, Anne Hathaway's character, who we come to learn is Emma, is like, yeah, we've already met like a handful of times. This is not the first time we're meeting. And he clearly does not remember her. Strike one of like 1,000 strikes for Dexter. Dexter, played by Jim Sturgess. Dexter Mayhew. Anne Hathaway introduces herself as Emma Morley. So he offers to walk her home because their friends are obviously just completely preoccupied with each other. And they end up at her apartment. And they're kind of like in this liminal space between like a sexual encounter and not a sexual encounter, where it keeps stopping and starting. Like they've like kissed and then they kind of start getting undressed and then they're kind of laying in bed, but Emma's very anxious, and in her anxiety, I think Dexter starts to question whether he like really wants to do this. Emma like gets undressed, but then she wants to go to the bathroom and brush her teeth, and then while she's brushing her teeth, Dexter's like, I could probably just get out of here, like this is getting kind of weird. It's very push and pull from both of them because you can tell that they're second guessing all of their actions like in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's very awkward. You get the impression that she's not used to this. She's kind of like, she's putting music on.
You could see by his face that he's like, what the fuck?
They're making out. They start undressing. And as they're undressing, she's like, so where do you see yourself at 40? Like, it's just, she's not in her element. She doesn't know what to say. She's just, you know, how can I learn more about you while we're doing this thing?
It's clear that she has a higher degree of emotional investment than Dexter. He's just trying to get it in. And she's like, right. What do you want to be when you're 40? What do you think about your future? Now that you've graduated, what are you going to do? And
he's like,
She wants to know where he sees himself at 40. He says that he's either going to be famous or horribly rich. Why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos?
¿Por qué no los dos?
And she gives him shit for being posh. So at this point in the book is where we learn that her character is from Yorkshire. So like way north of London, more working class area. They have a different accent. And his character is from outside of London, much more posh accent, Southern English accent. So that's already like a very clear class differential. The movie doesn't emphasize that quite as much, I think. So Dexter is like already second guessing this. When she comes back from the bathroom, he's trying to get out the door. And she kind of shows off this moment of vulnerability where you can tell that she's frustrated that this is like not going her way. Like she doesn't say anything outright. You can really just read in like her acting that she's like, damn, like fine, okay, get out. It's totally cool. I don't care. That very defensive vibe that you get when you absolutely do care. He chooses to stay. And they lay on what has to be, like, you know when you're in college in the US and they give you a twin XL bed because it's just supposed to accommodate, like, taller people, but it's still twin size? This is like a twin mini bed.
It is so small. It barely fits one person.
Comically small. He lays down with her and they kind of like cuddle, and she admits that she's nervous, doesn't really do this. He says, hey, it's okay. Like, we can just be friends. Outwardly, he's sweet to her about it in the way that matters, in the way she perceives it. Internally, both of them are annoyed. Like, she doesn't want to be his friend. She likes him. He wanted to get it on. He doesn't really want to be friends with the girl that he's going to get it on with. So this is kind of that push and pull that is very, very transparent to the reader of the book. They're acting one way and thinking another. They're thinking the same thing. They're like, I just want to kiss this person. I just want to like actually hook up with them. I just want to want to like do all of these things. I like them like romantically. And outwardly, they're both like, I'm very cool and chill. We can totally just be friends. I don't really want to. It's fine. Like, they're so affectedly nonchalant.
You don't get this in the movie, though.
No.
In the movie, you're just seeing this sweet interaction, and you're kind of like, oh, look, that's sweet. He clocks her discomfort, and he kind of just like, hey, it's cool.
No pressure.
We can just be friends.
Yeah.
They snuggle and are just like, all right, let's just get some sleep. And then tomorrow, we'll go about our day. Mm-hmm. In this part, Dexter mentions, oh, well, tomorrow, which is actually today because it's dawn. Tomorrow is St. Swithin's Day. There's a saying related to St. Swithin's Day that says, if it rains on St. Swithin's Day, it rains for 40 nights straight, something like that. Mm-hmm. And she's pretty much like, well, if it doesn't rain, do you mind hanging out? In the moment, he's like, yeah, sure. And then they stay in bed, and it cuts from there to them on July 15th.
You're sensing a theme. The theme is July 15th.
The following year, 1989, July 15th, and it's Dexter helping Emma move into her new apartment. So now you see like, oh, they've been friends for this whole year. Mm-hmm. He's helping her move. So, you know, they're close friends. Mm-hmm. As he's helping her move, she's like, you know, there's mention that he has a flight that he has to catch.
Yep.
And at one point he's like, I gotta go. She's like, fine. Go find yourself in India. So, you know, he's going to India. He's going to be traveling, which is, you know, a very rich boy thing to do. Is, you know, I'm going to go backpacking through India after college because I can.
If I had money.
If any of us, right.
God.
When you're young, if you can.
Do.
Right? You take advantage of that privilege. So in this scene, you get the impression she's in London now. Mm-hmm. She's ready to start her life. She's like, I'm going to write. You know, I'm going to get into my poetry. And he's like, yes, you're going to take London by storm. And he picks up her typewriter. It's this blue typewriter. And this blue typewriter comes up for the rest of the movie. In the background, on her desk, you know, just around. And to me, it kind of symbolizes this hope that she has to be the writer, to write her poetry, to write her stories. It's always in the background somewhere. Dexter pretty much asks her, make sure you write me really long letters. Puts the typewriter down, and then from there we cut.
Something that I want to call out about this movie is because you are linking up with them every year on the same day, July 15th, you are linking up with them exclusively in summer. So I think that's kind of funny just because I think most people envision England as this cold, dreary place where it's raining just all the fucking time. Very Forks, Washington of us. As you see different summers, they have different weather where sometimes it's gloomy, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's sunny and really hot, but you're never seeing them in winter. And I think the way that they light and color correct the movie lends to that, where the majority of the movie, especially when things are like going good, when there's hope, when they're both kind of happy, is like warm lighting, orange and yellow, higher contrast. When things in the movie are going kind of sad and like down a ways, you get a little bit more of like the cool lighting, the softer, more diffuse lighting, like a little bit more blue toned. I also think that wardrobe wise, they do lean into the time period, but not in a garish way. This movie takes a very subdued and therefore more realistic approach to period costuming. And I think it's because the majority of the people who were involved in the production of the movie probably have firsthand recollection of how people back then were dressing and how to not make it seem so affected or so overdone. So that's one thing that I love about this movie, like, period. Dexter says, don't forget to write me those long letters. And again, We've mentioned this across multiple movies that we've discussed where the characters have like a lively written correspondence, like in the book. Red, White, and Royal Blue is one of those where their email and text correspondence is like one of my favorite things about that book. It like really informs their love story. One day, they don't have like a shit ton of letters and written correspondence, but especially kind of at this beginning point where they're building their friendship, they have like I want to say a handful of letters going back and forth. Dexter has 2 or 3. Emma has 2 or 3. Her letters are so dripping with this like crush and this affection that she has for him. His letters are like a lot shallower and a lot more vapid and just build on what you know about them as characters. Obviously, in the movie, as we've discussed before, letters and written correspondence do not win. They fall totally flat. You need to find a way to show and not tell. So he's telling her, don't forget to write me those long letters. She does. We don't really see the product of those letters on the screen. Before he takes his leave, after helping her move her bed up 3 flights of stairs, he says, by this time next year, you'll be taking London by storm. All right, Dexter, we'll hold you to that. 1990, July 15th. This is the following year. We cut to Emma working at a Mexican restaurant in England. Ooh, girl, I don't want to know about that. She is long suffering. Like, she looks exhausted. Her hair is longer. The clothes that they have her in are meant to make her look very dowdy. Her shirt's oversized. Her pants are oversized. She's sweaty. She's got this awful sombrero that's like hanging off of a cord on her neck. And she's meant to be training a new employee that starts that day, July 15th. His name is Ian. She asks him, what's your stroke? The first time that I watched this, I remember being like, what the fuck does that mean? Because I'm assuming, I'm not an English person. In England, they say stroke instead of slash, whereas we would say slash, like the diagonal punctuation that's giving you an either or option, right? This slash that. She's using that as this stroke that. What is your stroke? You work at a Mexican restaurant / what's the main thing that you're trying to focus on?
Right, because you can't just be working at this restaurant.
That's not your goal in life.
This is a means to an end. What's your end?
What is your stroke?
Yeah.
He is a stand-up comedian. Yikes. Big yikes, Ian. And when he asks her back, what's your stroke? She says that all she's got is this restaurant job. There's really no stroke anymore. She's just trying to survive. And you can tell that she's been really beaten down by whatever experiences she's had so far in London. You get a little bit more detail into what these experiences are in the book and how much she feels like she has failed. Not only failed in her goals, but failed her past self, like her more optimistic self, which is something that we've already kind of talked about here. That she's pretty much on the brink of just giving up her writing dreams, right? Now that she lives in London, she's like, I can't hack it. Like, I'm just not good enough. And we see Emma call Dexter from a phone booth that day. Fun, cool little phone booth. Remember, guys, it is 1990, not a cell phone in sight. She calls Dexter from a phone booth outside. This is a scene that definitely doesn't make Dexter more likable. So we learn that he is living in France and he is working as an English teacher of some kind. And he's like playfully laying in bed using a corded phone for this phone call. As he speaks, you see a feminine hand creep into the frame where he's essentially like in the middle of a sexual encounter as he's picked up this phone call from Emma and is fucking his students pretty much because Dexter's a slime bag.
The way they bring it up, it's so funny because it just seems like they're catching up on the phone.
Yes.
And then at one point she's like, how's it going as an English teacher? And she's like, I hope you're not fucking any of your students. And then like, that's when you start seeing a hand creeping in the frame. And then you see like a naked body's walking around and you're like, fuck. So you fully assume, okay, he's definitely. And he defends this later on. And it's like, well, I'm their age.
He's like 23.
And so he defends this later like, I'm not really their teacher. We're around the same age. I'm learning like they are.
And she's
it's
like,
my guy. Goodness me.
Yeah, Dexter never stops being gross. And as he hangs up on Emma, he's about to go pounce on this woman that's in his bed.
She pounces on him, actually.
Well, both can be true. And Emma is left in this phone booth as the call disconnects and is just like, I miss you. And just says it into the dead air after he's already hung up the phone. So massive bummer. I mean, I think a lot of us have been there, right? In an unrequited love situation where you have feelings for one of your friends and you're not really sure how to go about it. And that friend being Dexter, I mean, you have to withstand so much of his encounters, sexual activity, girlfriends, etc., that I'm sure it's even more disheartening than a regular, if it exists, unrequited love situation. We cut back to Dexter. I assume he is done having sex with a student, and he's running across some gorgeous looking square in fucking France. Cobblestone streets and fucking warm lighting and nice, beautiful, like eggshell colored stone. And he's wearing an outfit that I'd wear today.
I love his outfit in this scene.
So good. He's wearing a white t-shirt with a blazer, like a sport coat, a pair of lighter wash blue jeans in like a straight leg dad fit, and black loafers. He looks fabulous.
Such a good outfit.
He's running across a square. You get the notion that he's late for something because he was too busy fucking. He goes to meet with his mother, who is played by the incredible Patricia Clarkson, also known to people around my age as the mom from Easy A. She's so fucking funny. Like, she just has this wryness to how she delivers her lines, to her character. Patricia Clarkson is also an American actor, so she and Anne Hathaway are two Americans that are kind of in the main part of the cast of this movie and play British. There's something about her that's just like so elegant and stunning.
I love her.
Even as I was reading the book, and I obviously read the book after initially watching the movie, I was like, oh, she's perfect. She makes perfect sense as his mom. So he is running across this square because he's late to meet up with his mother for lunch. We catch that she's like, 45 minutes late, Dexter. What the fuck were you doing? Were you sleeping with your fucking students? And he's just like, no.
Plus, they're not really my students.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, anyway, what's up? Being super evasive with his mom. She asks him, you know, who's that girl that's writing you all those long letters? Like, how is she? Is she Emma? Is that her name? And he goes, oh, she's like just a good friend. Like, she's not my type. And his mom's like, huh.
That's exactly why I like her, is what she says. Like, I like her because she's not your type. So by now, you're supposed to get the impression, because you only really met Dexter for a couple of minutes in the beginning.
Yes.
Where it was after a party, they were drunk, and he was trying to get some action. You fully come to realize, like, that's his personality. Like, he's just always just trying to
get some action.
He's a fuckboy. Like, you get the impression that he is unserious. He is just out here to have fun. So you start to like him in the beginning because you realize how sweet he is to Emma. But here you're like, oh, he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
That impression of Dexter as a scumbag is going to stay with you.
But then they also show you, like, how close he is to his mom.
Yes.
And how charming his mom is, how they feed off of each other. And he's obviously like a mama's boy. The movie and the book is constantly challenging how you feel about Dexter. Like, you hate him because you know he's a scumbag, but also, like, he's going through this, or he actually really feels like this. He just doesn't know how to communicate it. Or like, you're finding excuses for Dexter all the time.
The book almost puts you in the position of Emma, where you begrudgingly love this character.
Yes.
You are fully aware of his flaws. And then you're kind of like, oh, fine.
Fine. He's adorable. Sheesh.
Fine. Whereas, you know, on the flip side of that, as far as a character, Emma is pretty steadfast in her motivations, in her moral compass, right, for the entirety of the story. And as his mom is kind of like, not grilling him, but giving him a little grief about Emma, she mentions kind of like, oh, she's the girl that came to stay. And you realize through a little bit of discourse between him and his mom that Emma stayed with them for a weekend or so over the summer after they graduated from college. So after this fateful meet cute where they were going to hook up and didn't. As Dexter and Emma are on the phone, where she's in the phone booth, she has this moment where she's like, tell your dad I'm sorry for calling him a fascist. Which is deeply funny.
So you kind of hear through this conversation when she talks about the girl who sends the long letters. She's like, you know, that's the girl that came and stayed with us last year. So it's like, okay, they've spent time together as a family. Kind of like, when did this happen? Wait, what?
And this is kind of the little crumbs of evidence that you get that life exists between July 15th last year, July 15th this year. So Dexter and his mother, she's waiting for him kind of at a cafe, like in a square. They sit together for a little bit, and decide it's time to go meet your father. Like, he's waiting for us because you were very late. They come across his father sitting like on the edge of a fountain with like massaging his feet outside of his sandals, like something that's like kind of gross and not a high class moment. You can tell immediately that Dexter and his dad do not see eye to eye. Like, they're not the ones. Dexter's mom and dad clearly love each other very much. They're like fondly exasperated with each other. But Dexter and his dad, they're not on the same team. They're not, going to Little League or whatever. As they kind of have this kind of cold greeting with Dexter's dad, he's getting ready to like either walk them to their dinner or like take his leave as they go out to dinner. His mom kind of turns to him quickly and goes, take me to lunch tomorrow, somewhere quiet with white tablecloths. I have something to tell you. And Dexter's like, is everything okay? And she's like, everything's fine.
Just want to have lunch with my son.
Yeah.
Different than the lunch we just had.
Just you and me, somewhere quiet. Let's go together. It'll be totally chill and fine. Nothing foreboding is coming from this conversation. Brrr. All right, baby. Guess what time it is? We're cutting. It is July 15th, 1991. So we see Emma, cutie, honey, still working at the Mexican restaurant. Yikes. Ian is also still working there. He is a seasoned, pun intended, employee now.
Seasoned? Is that because it's Mexican food?
Yes.
Bitch.
Ian kind of comes back behind like one of the counters while Emma's fucking around at the kitchen and goes, hey, Golden Boy's here. We know Golden Boy is probably Dexter. And if Ian has a crush on Emma, which outwardly he seems to, her hanging out with Dexter is like big yikes for him, and he's upset about it. Dexter shows up with his quote-unquote flavor of the week, whoever he's dating at the time. At some point, he completely abandons whoever it is that he brought to this restaurant because he goes to talk to Emma by himself. And she reveals to him that she was offered the job of manager at the Mexican restaurant because they, quote, need somebody who's not going anywhere. She's been there at this point for 2 years. She is just in the dumps, disheartened, hates this fucking place. He asks her, like, hey, what's happened to your writing? That's your goal, right? And she says that she needs to make money. That's why she's working at the fucking Mexican restaurant, not for the love of the game. Dexter's like, you're funny, you're attractive, you're smart, you're sexy. And she's like, really? As she's wearing this like oversized, awful white uniform shirt and her hair is like sweaty, stuck to her head. He's like, if there's one gift I could give you, I would give you confidence so that you could see yourself the way that I see you. This moment is like kind of earnest and kind of sweet. Dex still sounds like a scumbag, but we're going to let it slide because he's trying to be encouraging to Emma. These lines that he's telling her, these lines are pulled from a letter that he intends to send Emma during one of his overseas travels at a similar point in the book. Ironically, in the book, the letter never gets sent, so he never ends up communicating these feelings. And
this part in the book is so heartbreaking.
I hope it's in the miniseries.
Okay, so in the book, this conversation, as Nadhya mentioned, takes place in form of a letter. This letter, though, is pages long. And he goes on to say, how much Emma means to him, how much he misses her, how much he wishes she was there. Like, all of this stuff that he would never say in person.
These lines are pulled out of that same kind of aborted communication from the letter in the book. Emma responds by saying, I just feel a bit lost, Dex. You've got your shit figured out, but I don't. And Dex responds very charitably because, again, he's clearly not feeling, quote unquote, as lost as Emma is. Everyone's lost at 25. She says, you're not lost. We learn here that Dexter is training to be a TV producer, has a new apartment, dating all these different women, and he's like doing well. Aside from the fact that he is from money, he is financially doing well for someone who's 25. And she's a little bit jealous, a little bit resentful of that. He suggests that they go away on vacation together. Like, that's what you need. You need to get out of here. You need to get a change of space, like a change of scenery. She's kind of like, vacation. Like, I can't fucking afford going on a vacation. But she's, okay, fine. Sure, Dexter. Yeah, thank you. Great suggestion. They're really physically intimate for platonic friends. And I also, whenever I watch movies about Europeans or Latin Americans who express friendship differently, I have to remind myself that I'm American. Like, I have to remind myself that, like, American friendship, especially between men and women, I feel like isn't as physically affectionate as like friendships in other cultures. Even in Latin America, you know, people like hug and kiss and touch a lot.
Yeah, but you're talking about British people.
That's
Which
fair.
on-
Slightly
are
more repressed than
famously
Americans.
less expressive than even Americans are. But, you know. So I think this signals more the fact that, back to what I said at the beginning of this episode, they are defaulting to friends because they feel that their lives are in different places, and they would be more than friends if they just stop bullshitting. And they do that with these displays of affection, like playing with her hair, like physically in touch, but emotionally won't let each other get there.
Mm-hmm. As you move through the story, it makes sense because you realize that it's literally just like limits in their understanding. Like you get to this point with Emma where she's like, Dexter and I don't make any sense. The latter half of that sentence is like, Dexter and I don't make any sense right now because of where he is in his life, where I am in mine. And that's also like a pretty universal experience. I feel like everybody has met the person or had the friend or whatever where you're like, oh, one day, oh, I could see that like happening for me, but not now. And that's the space that we see Dexter and Emma inhabit for a long time. After this scene, Dexter and Emma, they embrace. He gives her a big kiss on the forehead. He's got his arm wrapped around her. Her coworker Ian is pissed about this. He'll survive. We cut to July 15th, 1992. Where are we? Somewhere fucking sunny and gorgeous. Dexter and Emma have decided to go on vacation together. They're in a wonderful little convertible. They are flying down a highway, looking posh as ever, like a fucking Audrey Hepburn movie.
Truly, this reminds me of Sabrina with Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn in their topless car. The car's naked from the top, from the waist up. In their convertible.
In the movie, they go to France for this vacation, and pretty much at any time that one of them is like traveling internationally, for whatever reason in the movie, it happens to be France. In the book, it's like many different countries. So Dexter is teaching English in Rome or Venice. He's not teaching English in France. When he's in his like finding himself era, traveling a bunch, he's in India. When they go on their vacation together, they go to Greece. They don't go to France. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they like, whether that was like for ease of like production stuff and being able to film everything at the same time across locations. Like if they just did maybe 2 months in France and they film all the France scenes there, and then 2 months in England, they film all the England scenes there. I do not know. So they go to France. They're on the coast. Anne Hathaway is looking, you know, carefree and youthful with like shoulder length hair happening here. It's like these like bigger waves. Dexter is like, his hair is like a little bit shaggy, but he's got this air of just like a guy with money. Confidence, yes.
Just like does not give a shit. He just walks confidently through the world. Can you imagine?
Could not be me. Must be amazing to be a man. As they're driving down in this convertible, they're discussing, quote unquote, the rules. Emma has decided that they are making rules because apparently their friendship needs more boundaries. That's why they have rules.
That says a little bit.
That says a lot. Girl, I don't need to go up to my friends and go, don't make out with me. It's a social contract.
Don't try to look at me while I'm naked.
Don't look at me when I'm in the shower, bitch.
We cannot sleep on the same bed. We cannot share a room.
Wow.
No skinny dipping.
No skinny dipping. I mean, every fucking
No
rule.
flirting. No, and she pretty much says, I don't want to take any risks with our friendship.
Yes, I value our friendship too much to let something stupid ruin it.
Maybe she's saying that because she knows how unserious he is.
Incredibly so.
You know, he's just a freewheeling guy. Just he doesn't care. At the same time, that also says a lot about her. Because you know what? If he does try to put a move on her, I don't think she thinks that she's going to have the willpower
to stop it. She has feelings for him.
I feel like at this point, you get the feeling like she would want a romantic relationship if she thought it could happen and be successful with Dexter. The thing is, I don't think she thinks it would be successful. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I'd rather not risk it. But if he tried something, I probably wouldn't stop it.
Uh-oh.
So she needs to draw that boundary now because she's also afraid of what she would do in that situation.
Agree. So these are the rules, baby. Separate bedrooms, wherever their lodgings are. No shared beds. No drunken cuddles, to which Dexter responds, I hate cuddling. Cuddling gives you cramp. No flirting, no getting frisky, and no skinny dipping. Again, to any person on earth, these would be pretty easy rules to follow. Just saying that, just putting that out there at the top. Dexter adds, all right, these rules feel pointed, so I need to add a rule, and that rule is no Scrabble. Okay, dude. So they go to the beach. There's a little sexual tension while they're there because they're doing the classic applying sunscreen situation.
You know, she needed help with her sunscreen, so he very sensually starts applying it to her back.
Because it's a movie. So she is wearing just a one-piece black bathing suit.
It's called the Edwardian.
Oh, that's so fucking funny. That's so funny.
No, I'm laughing at my accent, but okay. Thank you for giving me that.
You're very welcome. Also, guys, for those of you who were just waiting to line up your money to hear Paola do her accent, there's a freebie. You're not going to get another one. Just letting you know, $50. So he's applying sunscreen to her lower back. In the book, you get the insight from Emma's perspective that she specifically chose this bathing suit because she thought it would be the most modest one, because she didn't trust the situation where she's wearing a two-piece bikini, thinks that a two-piece bikini implies easy access, decides to bring a black one-piece, which cracks me up. I think that's so funny. In the book, where you're getting an insight into both of their perspectives separately, Dexter is like lusting after her immediately. Like, he's like, she looks amazing. I bet she thought this swimsuit would be modest. Not that back scoop. Like,
these are the things I hope you see more in the show.
Yes! It's 14 episodes. Imagine if they leave it out. Can't be. So she's like, what the fuck are you looking at? She has to take it away from sunscreen putting on. She has to bro out and be like, what's up, mate? I'm just kidding. She doesn't do that. So they look down this beach that they're at and they realize they are on a nudist beach. And Emma's like, I can hear you thinking. It's like this crunching noise.
I love it.
And Dexter tries to suggest, like, hey, we should go nude. Like, let's just take our bathing suits off. Like, whatever. It's no big deal. They're all doing it. And she's like, no fucking way. You do whatever you want. I'm not taking my fucking bathing suit off. You absolute fucking degenerate. And he's like, okay, fine. You're so boring. They go to their hotel room. And as they arrive, you realize that they have one room, and the one room has only one bed.
Dun, dun, dun. What's the one bed trope?
Oh, there's only one bed at this inn.
There's only one bed at this inn.
But I hate you. No.
Not tonight, you don't.
Yeah. Like, in the book, they're island hopping in Greece. So they arrive at this island, and Emma tells Dexter, like, hey, find us a nice hotel or a bed and breakfast situation. Get 2 rooms. And if you can't get 2 rooms, make sure that the room has 2 beds. I'm not sharing a bed with you. I don't know why she put this in Dexter's hands. Okay. If you ask me, they both knew what they were doing. So Dexter goes and ends up at like some inn owned by like an older Greek woman. And he's like, yeah, so, you know, my friend, she's looking for 2 beds. Like, if you have 2 rooms, it would be really great. The Greek woman is like, oh yeah, of course. Like, we have 2 rooms. That's fine. The scene kind of cuts off there. And in the next paragraph, he's coming back to Emma and he's like, yeah, I'm so sorry. All she had was 1 room with 1 bed. And you're like, Dexter!
You're like, no.
You fucking bitch! You manipulative little dick.
I'm secretly excited because I'm like, oh, maybe they'll fucking break the ice. Well, because also I'm like, listen, YOLO. Like,
YOLO!
We here. Let's do this.
We out here.
We out here. Let's do it.
That's something that's not shown in the movie. So
I guess Emma's more respectable.
Emma's a better person than both of us, evidently. So what we assume has happened is that there has been some miscommunication. Dexter has inadvertently gotten 1 room with 1 bed. That maybe the person that was dealing with them at the hotel thought they were a couple. And he doesn't really seem to take any responsibility either to Emma or to the audience for them sharing a bed, sharing a room. As they get there, Emma's like, fine, whatever. You sleep on that side, I'll sleep on this side. We're not going to fucking cuddle. And he's like, okay. She does kind of gripe about sharing the bed with him and sharing the room. And he says, because he's a fucking piece of shit, it's not like we're entirely unknown to each other. We hooked up in college.
He called it their near miss.
Sweet Jesus.
And she throws a book at him.
Which, love that. Love that for you, Emma.
But then there's this moment, though, like right after this little tidbit, where he just looks at her. And like you see these movies throughout, like you've already seen it a little bit at the beach. And you see it here again, where he's just kind of like taking her in. And she's kind of draws back like, you good? Like,
you good?
Is there sun on my face? Have I got the sun? Is actually what she says.
Yes.
And he's like, nah, you look fine.
We cut to them at some type of outdoor bar. I love the way that this shot is framed, honestly. So we get this kind of like heavy blue light. There's like music going in the background. It's crowded. There are lots of people there. They're both sitting on bar stools. They're centered on the screen. They're facing outward from the bar and like a little bit angled in towards each other. Everyone else at this bar, obviously to accommodate for the shot, is facing away from them so that you see the backs of all of the other patrons like on camera while you're looking at the fronts of Dexter and Emma. And I can't explain why it's such satisfying framing. It feels like you're parting the Red Sea of like bar goers and then you're meeting Dexter and Emma at the end. And I was struck by how much I liked that shot. So as we come upon them, Dexter's twirling Emma's hair, scram.
Again, you see this where they're attached physically, but not emotionally.
Right. Because you can tell they want different things contrary to what they present. Emma starts to say, like, I can't believe I'm actually here with you.
She's in her cups.
She starts to tell Dexter, like, you know, why don't we tell each other something that, like, we've never told each other before? Like, here's this thing I want to tell you. Like, I had the biggest crush on you in college.
Like, I wrote poems about it and everything.
The pride, the pride, the pride. No!
Asterisk. Insert Nadhya pride. Asterisk.
The way I'd be sitting at that bar, silent. Like,
He kind of just looks at her, nods, chuckles a little bit. This motherfucker, and goes, yeah, I knew.
She thinks she played it so
she
fucking
did not
cool.
like that he was on to her, essentially. Like, oh, so you knew? What do you mean you knew? He's like, I kind of guessed it. I mean, somewhere between like the 3-page fucking letters you sent me.
It's just objectively so sweet.
She gets upset with him and she doesn't want to share anymore.
Because it's fucking embarrassing. I'm with you, Emma.
She didn't know she was exposing herself and realized like, oh shit, so you've just known how I felt the whole time. She kind of puts her walls back up and is like, okay, ha 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 ha. Well, fuck you. So he starts to fish. Like, okay, well, what happened to these feelings you had? Where are they? And she's like, nah, I got over them. They're done. They're done. I'm done. You're done. We're done with this conversation.
You cured me of you. Her saying that is like chef's kiss. Like, knowing you fucking fixed that right up for me, my boy. I got to know you and I was like, fuck that crush. Gross. Obviously, it's not true. As the viewer, we know she still desires Dexter.
And she tries to recuperate.
Yes.
By pretty much saying like, well, I got to know you and then I got over it.
Yeah, a little hint of Nadhya pride right there.
That's where we inserted it. She's uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, let's go for a walk.
You fucking hoe.
A walk. Okay, let's go for a walk, Dexter. Walking under the moonlight. They're surrounded by water. I'm not sure if they're like by a beach or if it's a canal or what it is. I feel like it looks like a canal. I'm not sure.
Some body of water.
And they walk up to it. He starts taking his clothes off. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, you know, you only live once. I'm going to jump in the water. Come on, join me. And she's like, you motherfucker. You led me over here. You set me up for this shit. But she thinks the same thing. You're right. YOLO. Takes off her clothes, jumps in the water. What else are you supposed to do? We're here now. So they have this moment in the water and Dexter starts to answer, kind of reply to the statement she made earlier. Mm-hmm. And he starts to tell her that he felt the same way about her in college and that he thinks about her all the time.
And like what they could be, could have been, etc.
You get this scene where you're like, okay, he's going to be honest with her. He's going to open up to her. Emma, like, you can see her face light up.
Oh, hope. The hope on her face.
And she's like, yeah. Oh, my God, Dexter. Well, And you see that she's about to do a declaration. And right before she's going to declare how she feels for him, this fucking asshole goes, I pretty much fancy everyone. Like, it's like I've gotten out of jail all of the time. All I think about is sex. You know, sex, sex, sex. Emma's obviously like,
what the fuck?
And then he's like, but it's different with you.
Not good enough anymore, buddy.
But I think we want different things. I don't think I'm ready for it yet. This is like the most self-aware shit he says the whole movie. Because he knows he's not ready for Emma, but he loves her. But what if we have some fun? You know, we're on vacation. Let's have a fling. And she's like, this motherfucker, you're going to fucking reduce me to a fling? Fuck you. She takes him and shoves his head under the water and holds it there, deservingly.
Respect.
For a couple seconds. But until she starts to see bubbles and it's like, fine, I don't want to
kill him, not
convicted
yet.
for murder. Fine.
In the book, this scene is pretty like verbatim, right, to how it is in the movie. The movie is a very faithful adaptation, save for a couple of parts that we've called out and we'll call out as we go forward. But you get a glimpse into Dexter's mind, literally like as these words are tumbling out of his mouth, where he's like, wait, but I didn't really want to say that. Shit, I could see her face is changing now and she seems upset. I know that was the wrong thing to say. Why am I not saying the right thing? Like, why do I keep saying, oh, but I like everyone? And then it's like, but it is kind of true. Like, I do kind of like everybody, but it's different. Emma's different. And like, these are the moments that endear you to him when you see that he is like so imperfect, second guessing himself, a little bit more self-aware than he's outwardly shown. And that then people give him credit for kind of in this book and in the, like throughout the story generally. And you're like, oh, fucking Dexter. Like, if you just said the truth, if you told the truth one time.
He did, though. I think that's exactly what he did.
It's just
he told the truth.
In the tone and the delivery, it just absolutely cocks it up.
Cocks it up.
Cocks it up.
Sorry. He wants to say how he feels about her, but he's stopping himself because he knows he's not ready for that type of relationship. And what he's going to say is going to lead to that type of relationship.
Yeah.
She takes that as him viewing her like he views all these other little bitches he be fucking around with. With this display, with this word vomit that he gives her, he gives the impression that he doesn't take her seriously.
Yep.
And I think that hurts Emma because it's almost like she can be just as disposable as all these other girls that he brings around.
She's trying to play it off. I mean, I think both in the movie and the book, she doesn't do an amazing job. Where she's just kind of like, haha, totally, sure, yup, you, Dexter, you scamp. And as he's kind of trying to be like, no, but what I mean is, his eye gets caught by something behind her. And she's like, are you fucking kidding, Dexter? Like, could you at least fucking like look at me if you're trying to have this stupid conversation with me? And he's like, they're stealing my clothes. And he realizes that some little street urchins, in Aladdin-style street rat, no, I'm kidding, is stealing his clothes and his shoes off of the side of this like pool they're in where they've done their skinny dipping.
Bueno, ¿qué te pasa?
Bueno, ¿qué te pasa, coño? ¿Quién te manda? So
¿Quién te manda?
Now my man is naked.
Good for you.
He's pissed and he is like real mad about the clothes. Those underpants were Calvin Klein. They were 30 quid each. And it's like, they were 30 quid each in the 90s? What are you selling, cocaine? Like, I just like, what?
Why is your underwear that much?
Why is it so expensive? What is it made of? Fur?
Ni que fueran de oro.
Ni que fueran
what my
de oro.
grandmother would say.
Accurate. Is what my mother says today. And so Emma cannot handle it's too funny. What's happening is too fucking goofy and dumb. Dexter,
and it's karma.
In
for him real time.
For him being a fucking twat. So Dexter has to walk past twat. He's got to walk past a bunch of fucking people that are out at these open air bars and restaurants in his fucking, they find him like an IKEA bag that's left on the beach that he's using to cover his penis. And he has to walk past all these people and get wolf whistled at, and he's so embarrassed, and it's very, very funny. And apparently his clothes were quite expensive, not just the underpants. And as they're in bed later that night, Emma's like, Dexter, I promise you, I will find the thieves and I will track down those underpants. And it's like the perfect type of moment to like break the ice, because he's still being a grumpy baby about the fact that his clothes were stolen. She's kind of still coming down from this wounded pride moment of him saying the dumbest stuff she's ever heard. And that gets them like laughing again to the point where they're like kind of normal relaxing. And as they're about to like truly go to bed, Emma notes out loud, "We've broken all of the rules."
How many rules have we broken?
We've broken every single rule.
I think we've broken all of them.
And she's like, except Scrabble. And he goes, there's always tomorrow. Which I do love. I thought that was very sweet.
They lay together.
Yeah.
And they do this shot in the mirror. There's something about mirror shots, right? Like, what is it trying to tell you?
You get a handful of mirror shots in this movie that I think happen at emotionally significant times. But continue.
This mirror shot you get while they're sleeping, or while they're falling asleep, is very similar to a mirror shot you get when he's observing her from the bed earlier on in the day.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I haven't quite put my finger on it, but it's interesting to interpret what the director is trying to communicate with the mirror shot about their story. And it might have to do with a bit of exposure, right? You've just exposed yourself a bit.
You could also see it as like a little bit of a flip, like a mirror image. Like, who's the one who's really pining after Dexter? It was Emma. Now Emma's like cool on that. She's like, nah, I'm good. Who's pining after Emma in a very private way? It's Dexter. Now he's like, well, I kind of fucked up how that went. That skinny dipping debacle. Like, what am I doing? Like, almost kicking himself a little bit for not being more direct or more overt or whatever. In the book, and I think they mentioned this maybe once in the movie, you realize that they've got like 7 days left of this vacation. Also, not for nothing, Dexter is not married. He has like a girlfriend that he mentions at this part of the movie. And you can kind of tell that the girlfriends are very transient. But if my boyfriend was like, oh, hey, I'm going to go on a vacation to the islands with my female best friend from college that I met because we almost hooked up the night we graduated, I would...
Yeah, no, the way you would just kick him in the face.
Absolutely. Oh, I'd be fucking steamed. I would kill him. So close out on that scene with them just beginning to fall asleep laying in bed. We cut to July 1993. That's the Nadhya year right there.
That's the Nadhya year.
I don't like the implication of me turning 31 this year, but I accept it. What's happening, guys? It's the rhythm of the night.
This is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh, yeah. This was my shit in 1993. I was all of 5 years old, and I used to love this song. I love this song. Eso son cribo o son night. Song. Yeah, they just hadn't come out with the remix.
That's my mom's favorite. It's the remix. It's her vibe. So we see that Dexter is now a professional TV host. He has been hosting a live late night show, and he has gone out to party after, and he is just indiscriminately making out with women. He is taking drugs. He looks off his ass. He's sweaty. He's gross. He's partying all night. Calls Emma drunk.
By Emma's response, it is 5 a.m, Dexter. And he's like, you're the bestest friend I've ever had. You're so amazing. You have an amazing body. You are absolutely amazing. And you're like, what the fuck? Oh, okay. And Emma's pretty much like, Dexter, go to sleep. So we get like just this glimpse of July 15 in 1993. This is the only glimpse we get of 1993. Right after this phone call, we meet them again the following year in 1994. On July 15th, 1994, we start seeing Dexter getting ready in the morning. He's struggling. You can see him struggling. You get the impression he's just had a crazy night out and he's drunk and he's in the shower. He looks hungover. He's sweaty. He looks like shit. And you learn that he's visiting his parents' house that day. He arrives to the house and his father is like, what is wrong? Why are you sweating so much? What's wrong with you? And he's like, it's hot. I'm hot. It is not that hot for this consistent sweat you have. You learn that he's visiting his mom who has been sick. So you assume by the little elegant scarf that she's wearing on her head, she has some type of cancer and she's going through treatments.
The universal sign of someone in a movie having cancer is just a delicate head wrap.
And this scene is somber. You know, he arrives, he's sad to see her. She's equally sad to see him because she knows what she looks like. She knows she looks sick. She knows she's weak. You know, even though she's glad to see him, this also brings a sadness to her because she knows that this hurts her kids to see her this way. We get this beautiful shot of her on her balcony, surrounded with beautiful greenery and flowers and foliage. It's like so full and wholesome and abundant.
It's gorgeous. It's almost like a memorial mural where somebody nests a face in like roses and flowers and things like that.
It is a beautiful shot. You just feel, you see her because you see her earlier in the movie and she's just like this energy. She's just got like this.
She's so bubbly. She's so like light and cool.
Right. And then you kind of see her in this shot and you feel sad. Dexter brings her a gift and it's from Emma, not even from Dexter. She unwraps it and it's a bunch of books. Because what else would Emma send? She's going to send you a book. Shout out to the friends who send you books, especially when you're having a tough time.
Shout out to the friends who send your mom books. That's so kind.
Shout out to the friends who look out for not just you, but also your friends and your family. So it's a bittersweet moment because you see that she receives this gift from Emma, but they're like these big, thick books. And she's like, well, you know, tell her for next time to stick to short stories.
She's a little optimistic,
signaling that she doesn't have much time. And this makes you sad. So you get the impression that Dexter doesn't visit home much. I'm sure he's busy. He's got his big famous TV life going on. I mean, obviously going home is very stressful for him, as we can see from this scene. He doesn't really get to see her as much as he would want to these days, or as much as she would like to see him these days. She asks how she's doing. He shows her a taping of his show. He wants her to see what he's been up to. And it's kind of like showing her a taping of this show that he's been doing because he wants her to be proud of him. Like, you know, this is what I've been doing. This is my job. This is my work. And she hates it. She cannot hate this show more.
Oof.
It's vulgar. It's not good. You know, he's a late night TV host where they exploit women and music. And it's pretty much for people getting home from the club drunk.
It's also that he changes his behavior. Like, he's not hosting as himself. He becomes like a character.
Yes.
And she hates his character. Like, she hates how he's acting.
Why are you putting on this voice?
We hear mentioned several times throughout the book, what's the voice? Why are you doing that weird voice? He kind of does this different accent that's not his quote unquote posh London, South England accent.
And I think he mentions this, like, you know, it's for the kids. The show is for the kids. It's for a younger generation. So he changes literally his accent to be able to appeal to the younger generation of, you know, Londoners.
I almost feel like it's the equivalent of someone trying to seem very cool and American and putting on a Southern accent for no reason.
You want to seem more down to earth and relatable. So, you know, you start talking with a twang.
Like, Americans love that shit. Or so you think.
You know, next thing you know, you're like Alex Cameron Diaz's mom out here.
Absolutely brutal. Wow.
She asks him, like, why can't you just be yourself? You get the impression she's like very disappointed in what he's doing because her reply is, you know, like, you could have done anything. We always told you you can do anything you wanted. You could have decided to be anything and have done that and succeeded that, and we would have given you the resources, and you chose this? Like, is this the thing that you're choosing to do?
You've had every opportunity. You're attractive, you're smart, you're funny, you're rich, right? Like, you've got everything, and you're on TV, like, shouting at kids.
You're on TV pretending to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Why? And there's this thing that Dexter does in the book when you're in his inner monologue where anytime he thinks about who he's going to be in the future or what he can do or opportunities that come his way or what other people are doing, he judges it by how it sounds when he's introducing himself. How does it sound to be a TV presenter? Oh, that sounds cool. And it's part of his immaturity. And this part of his immaturity lasts much longer than it really should for an adult person. I feel like we've all been there, right? We're young. You want to have the successful title.
Nobody wants to feel like they're not interesting. A lot of Dexter's psyche revolves around other people's perception of him, to the point where like his self-perception, he comes off like gregarious and self-assured, confident, rich kid from like the southern part of England. He's still as self-conscious as anybody else, maybe even more, because he feels like he has an appearance to maintain. Whereas someone like Emma is just kind of like, yeah, you kind of get what you get. You've seen it. This is what it is. It's very face value. And his self-consciousness manifests in him making choices specifically because he wants to promote himself as better. And what sucks is that sometimes he doesn't live up to this image he's cultivated for himself. And it comes at the disappointment of everyone else in his life, like his mom, like Emma, like his dad.
Right. That's a bit more of a glimpse you get into Dexter's psyche that you don't really get from the movie. In the movie, you pretty much just get the impression like, this is the job that he's doing. And he even answers to her, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm this persona and this is what is available to me. So this is what I'm doing. And then after this, his mom feels bad because she sees that he feels bad. And she's like, I'm sorry. I'm in a bad mood. I'm tired. I want to go lay down.
Yeah.
And I feel like here, as the viewer, you see where she's at in her health. You get the impression he didn't know how deteriorated her health was or has gotten to that point.
And through comments that both she and his dad make, you can tell he's stayed away. And I don't cast a judgment on that. I think that's the case for so many people when a family member or a close friend has a decline in their health, is approaching death, anything like that, like, you know, God forbid. I think so many people, the discomfort, the anxiety, the reality of seeing it happen in front of your eyes seizes you up, where you're just like, I can't see big, important, lively, animated person be person in bed who needs help getting up the stairs.
I can understand that. I can sympathize with that, but that comes from such a place of privilege.
Yeah.
Because he has a choice to not be around.
Because he doesn't have to care for her. So in the book, Dexter actually has an older sister who he doesn't get along with. And his older sister has essentially moved into their parents' house again
to help the dad care for the mom, giving him the privilege of not dealing.
And I feel like his absence during his mom's illness fucks with his family relationships even more, because he and his sister were already not close and they become even less close because she resents him over how much space he can take away from their mom. He and his dad were already not close. His dad comes to, pretty much lose respect for him at this point in the story over how he's acting over like their mom's illness. He and his mom were the ones who were really close. Now his mom is feeling like disappointed and abandoned by him. And in the way that parents do extend their understanding to their children, I'm sure that his mom is able to be like, he's dealing with this in like kind of a stupid way, but he also just doesn't want to see me sick. But also like, I know I don't have that much time left and this sucks. Like I want to spend time with my kid. Because you do get the feeling that his mom has kind of cut him a break over his absence. And everyone else is kind of like, where the fuck are you? Like, yeah, fucking, what are you doing? What is more important than this? Oh, drugs? Like, what are you doing?
Oh, your partying TV show? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
She ends up having to ask him to help her up and to help her into bed. He didn't realize she needed this much help. It's more poignant in the book. Jim Sturgess does a really good job of communicating this through his acting, through his facial expressions. He carries her into bed. She lays down for a little bit. She's like, I just need a rest. You know, my guy who's still hungover takes advantage of this opportunity and he goes, lays down in his own bed in his parents' house. Next thing we see is his mom waking him up. And you learn that he has slept through the entire day.
If he arrived at his parents' place, let's pretend it's like 11 a.m., noon. By this point, the sun has almost fully gone down. It's July 15th, so that means it's like a good 7 o'clock. 7 hours of their day is him having slept, like him sleeping off
his hangover,
whatever, whether it was a hangover, whether it was drugs, him sleeping that off.
And he's like, oh shit, what time is it? And she's like, we've lost the day. And then, she pretty much has a heart to heart with him at this moment. Like, can I speak frankly? And he's like, do you have to? Like, I don't.
Which is objectively funny, unfortunately.
Do you have to?
Must you speak frankly? I don't know that
I want to hear this. I saw this movie in 2011. And there's a couple of lines in this movie that have stayed with me for a long time. And this is one of them, when she tells him, like, I know you're going to be a fine man because you're decent, you're loving, and you're going to be accomplished. I don't think you're there yet, right? Which is something you say to a loved one who, is kind of going through growing pains. You know they're going to get their shit together. They just need to fucking fall on their face first. But this is the part that always gets me because of the way she delivers this to her son. I just worry that you're not very nice anymore. So listen, I get you're growing. I get that you're evolving. I get that, you're struggling, you're finding yourself. All of that is fine. You don't need to be a perfect person right now. You don't need to, you're doing this show. I don't like it. You got to grow through that. That's fine. I just worry that you're not nice. I worry that you're not a nice person. Mm-hmm. Because that ultimately for her is what mattered. All she wants for her kids is for them to be good people.
Yeah. Because she knows they already have everything. She knows they've got all the building
blocks. You're not
blocks.
going to struggle for anything. We've provided for you everything you needed. You're never going to need or have a want that we can't help you along with. All I need you to do is to be a nice person. That always hits. As terrible as this world is sometimes, I like to believe that most of us, we're all just nice people just trying to do our best. And that's what you want for your kids too. However much you can or cannot provide, at the end of the day, you just want them to be nice people and be happy with themselves. Mm-hmm. Next scene, we see his dad literally take the keys from him. And his dad is not mincing his words.
His dad is not fucking around.
He said, you're fucking drunk. Let it be the last time you show up like this. The next time you show up like this, you are not going to see your mom. How dare you disrespect me, my home, and your mother? The way that shit tracks for a dad in the 90s. How dare you disrespect your mother in this condition?
Dude.
Shit. So he takes his keys, drives him to the train station. Take the train, get your shit together, and then you can come back and pick up your car when you're sober. He's such an asshole, but you also feel for him because you're like, I don't know. Why are we feeling for that? I don't know why we're feeling for Dexter, but we do.
Dude, because it sucks. I feel like no matter how you slice it, those of us who have lost a parent, one or both, like, I'm sure there are tons of things that like people regret in the last moments or whatever that they spent with a parent or the last words that they said or whatever. But like, there's also this pain of like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to be involved in it. Like, I don't want to see their decline. And it's these contradictory impulses where you're like, I need to spend every moment of them forever, or I need to avoid that this is all happening because I don't want to acknowledge that they're leaving me. And because the memories that I want to keep have already happened. Things are only going to get worse. I don't want to see them like that. Yeah, those things are like selfish and from a position of privilege for sure. But I understand those impulses. Definitely. I mean, we lost a parent 4 years ago and that was like not fun. And if I could have been kid, not here, not dealing with that, I probably would have been. But yeah, that just wasn't an option that I had at the time.
Yeah, fully. And so you kind of, he's in a fucked up spot. He's put himself in that spot. You want him to get better. You just want him to get better.
You want him to be better.
Seriously, you want him to be better for his mom?
Yeah.
Who in a very short time, you attach yourself to her. Like, she just has this welcoming from the book and even from her short time on screen. Like, the actress does such an amazing job. And you want him to get better for Emma because even through all of this, Emma's there.
She sends his mom books.
She's sending his mom books. She loves him beyond him. Because at this point, he doesn't deserve Emma.
No, he never deserves Emma.
So he's dropped off at the train station.
Brutal.
And the first thing he does when he gets to the train station is call Emma from the payphone. He's ashamed. He's hurting. And he calls Emma. And when you see this happen, they cut to Emma leaving her apartment and the phone's ringing.
And she just goes, "Nah."
She almost turns to go get it and then decides like, nah, I got to get out the door. I'm already, like, you get the impression like, fuck, I'm already late. Let them leave a message.
An insight that you get in the book, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me. She assumes it's Dexter. And then she's like, I'll just talk to him later.
Right. It's just my friend calling. Like, we'll catch up later.
It'll be fine.
If I pick this up right now, we're going to be on the phone for 45 more minutes.
I
need to go.
It's this moment where Dexter's already like kind of spinning out. You know, he's already showed up to his parents' house in a state. He's already behaving a certain way. And Emma is also choosing herself. Because 22-year-old Emma, if she thought Dexter had called, would have literally canceled a meeting with the president to go talk to Dexter. But 27-year-old Emma is like, I gotta go.
I'm gonna just get back to you later.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Sure.
Like, what are you gonna...
Pretty much is a visual representation of her just choosing herself for a moment.
Yeah.
Because the last time we see them talking, he's a drunk mess.
Yeah.
And he's just talking shit over the phone. She's like, dude, it's 5 a.m. I gotta go get ready for work. I think she's realized at that point, like, she's just there for Dexter. Like, when Dexter needs something, there's Emma.
Yeah.
But is he truly there when she needs him?
Probably not.
We see this happening and you're like, no, because you want her to pick up the phone. You know he's in need.
He's in such a state. Like,
you're like, what's going to happen to this guy if he doesn't talk to somebody right now?
What's going to happen to this guy who's a dumb idiot, stupid?
And he does leave a voicemail where he says, Emma, I need to speak to someone. I don't need to speak to someone. I need to speak to you. And you're like,
my heart.
Oh. And again, you're like, why am I feeling for this asshole? But still, you do. You truly do.
You really do.
And maybe it's the simp in all of us. But
I know.
We all want to fix Dexter. And I think that's the fucked up part.
Ooh, yeah, we do all want to fix Dexter. We all want him to be okay. He does suck, though.
He does not deserve it.
No.
So we're happy that our girl gets out of there and goes off to dinner. But who is she meeting for dinner?
She's meeting Ian, the stand-up comedian from the Mexican restaurant.
And look, Ian is a nice guy. He seems super sweet. He was about Emma from the jump. He asked her out on a date and she was just like, but Ian's not our guy.
Ian's not it.
He's not funny.
Which you think would be necessary for a stand-up comedian.
He's also not really there to support her.
He's there to take her support.
Throughout the time you know Ian, he wants so much validation from her, but you don't see him giving a lot of that the other way. Whereas where Dexter, you see him kind of like, dude, you're beautiful.
You're smart.
You're amazing. You're smart. You're talented. She doesn't really get that from Ian.
And she doesn't take it seriously when it comes from Dexter because Dexter is so famously full of shit. She meets Ian out on this date. This date is bad, y'all. And I just want to talk about Emma's beauty moment right here, okay? Because the hair, it's giving 1994. All right? It's like a Shannon Doherty blowout 1994. She's got glasses on. She's like looking good. Cute little lipstick. She's wearing like a denim jacket, like a skirt with boots. Like she's so cute.
Callback moment. She's wearing the same dress that she wore on the date, not date, but when her and Dexter were on vacation and they went skinny dipping and she unbuttoned her dress. This was the same dress she has under the denim jacket. Right now.
Shit, dude.
Or in this scene.
I did not catch that. Because you know how regular people keep and rewear their clothes, something that movies disregard? Wow, I love that.
I believe we see this dress in maybe 2 to 3 total scenes.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome.
To the point where I was watching this with my mom, and you know, you gotta love a Dominican mom. Cause as we're watching this movie, she's like, "Pero ya no se quita este vestido, pero explícame."
I'm dead. She's
like, why does she take this dress off?
My mom is such an asshole.
She loves that dress.
Unmitigated asshole. Jesus Christ.
She's so funny.
No one,
all right,
yeah,
continue.
no one let my mom into your establishments. So, so she clearly got dolled up for this date. And it's a terrible date. It's at like kind of a shitty Italian restaurant. Ian is not funny. And he just talks a lot about like his stand-up comedy career and how it's not really taking off and how he's not that successful, and like he's very self-deprecating in a way that is annoying. I can't speak for Paola. I know, ironically, because I am a very self-deprecating person, hearing whiny self-deprecation from other people is a real quick way to get me to exit that conversation.
Self-deprecation needs to be funny.
It needs to be
can't
sharp.
Be whiny.
It can't just be like,
it needs to be sharp.
Because it's fishing. When you whine and
Right.
self-deprecate, you're fishing, and that shit is fucking annoying. Don't do that. Or do whatever you want. I don't control your life. So he kind of says at some point throughout their conversation, like, if you're not being funny, then what are you being? Dog, you're being annoying.
But you know, it's so much of Ian's personality. He's decided to make being a stand-up comedian his whole identity, right? Because what's being funny? Being funny is making people laugh, making people like you. If you're not making people like you, what are you doing? And it's pretty much all Ian does is try to make Emma like him.
Emma mentions as they're on this date, like, you know, I'm really glad to be here. Again, a moment where she is validating Ian. Like, no, this is good. Like, I'm glad we're here. Ha ha ha. I just really wanted to celebrate because I got my teaching certificate. Like, I finished up my teacher training and I'm going to start being a real teacher full time. And the first fucking words out of Ian's mouth are, was Dexter busy? Shut the fuck up, bitch. What a not cool, fun thing to say.
So it's letting you know Ian's jealous. He's been jealous.
He's been
Since
jealous
they
the whole
worked
time.
at the Mexican restaurant, he's been jealous.
Yeah.
And he knows the place that Dexter holds in her life. And he's getting ready to compete against that. Because the way she just stays quiet and looks at him. Like, actually, yeah, he was busy.
But also, not for nothing, he was busy, and I don't owe you a fucking answer to that. Shut up.
Yo.
But yeah, he was.
Right. Actually, yeah, he was busy, and that's why I called you. He throws that out there almost like it's supposed to be a puya.
Yeah.
But it exposes him more than it exposes her.
Yes. Because
he's already placed himself as the anti-Dexter. And him putting himself in that position continues to show throughout the movie.
We're kind of setting the standard for how Ian communicates with Emma about lots of stuff, but specifically about Dexter. And you can literally see as this date goes on, and it's a painful one. It's not a fun date to watch. You can see Emma in real time lowering her expectations just so she can have fun for like a second.
Yeah.
You can see all of the moments where Ian says something kind of dumb and she just has to look down and like train her face and just be like,
you know, and you get the sense that, look, this is a person, she's graduated college, she's working her ass off to be able to pay for her life in London and set herself up. You get the impression she's finally out. I'm out to celebrate, and also I don't get out much. And it ends up being with this guy.
This fucking guy. I'd be pissed if I were her. I'd be mad too. Because she's almost kind of pleading. Like, she's like, I just let me have a good time. Like, and that is such an inauspicious start to a relationship. Unfortunately, I know that from experience. But like, what a terrible way to bring in a new partnership. So we cut over to Dexter. So he's calling her from his home. He's still bent out of shape. Now he's just leaving voicemails, right? So he's like, listen, just when you get home, I mean, I bet you're probably out, like, you're probably out on a date, or maybe you're like celebrating or something. Like, I hope you get home. When you get home and you get this, just come over. Just, I'll pay for your cab. Like, because he lives in a posh neighborhood and she lives in a not posh neighborhood. He's like, I don't care. Please just come over. Please just spend the night with me. I just need to see you tonight. You can sleep on the couch. I can sleep on the couch. You can sleep on I don't care. It's so heartbreaking. And the thing with Dexter is that these moments in which he is the most earnest, the least guarded, and the most open are the moments where he's already worn down your patience, both as the viewer and like the characters in the book. So he's been a doofus enough at this point for years with Emma that now when he's really, really like, no, I'm not kidding this time. I'm really like in need. She's kind of like, I've got shit, dude. I've got a life over here. I'm not just here for you.
as this is happening, as he's pleading to the voicemail, she's out here just trying to live her life, trying to live a life that's her own, trying to live a life that doesn't revolve around Dexter.
Yeah.
And she's at this date with Ian, and he's kind of like, you know, I like you, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, he invites her over to his place, and you can see her mulling this over in her head and kind of being like, well, I'm either going to go home and be by myself, or I can go home and have an Ovaltine benda with this guy.
Jesus Christ. This fucking guy.
And you can see her kind of playing this out in her head, and she's like, okay, fine.
You see the resignation.
And it is actually raining on St. Swithin's Day.
I thought that was interesting. I had never thought about it. Can I tell you that I had never correlated the weather to anything at all?
Like the saying says, right? If it rains on St. Swithin's Day, it's going to continue to rain for 40 days.
Yeah.
The state she was in with Ian in St. Swithin's Day continued for however long. Almost like foreshadowing, like, okay, this is going to be a state of being for an extended amount of time.
Right.
And in the same way that on St. Swithin's Day, in the beginning of the movie, her and Dexter ended up not hooking up, and that ended up being their state of being for an extended amount of time.
I like that. You know what? I would have to go back and rewatch the movie, but I feel like the weather would also correlate, like you said, where it's the most beautiful days when they're together and they're good. And then it's like the gnarliest rain bullshit when they're bad.
Gnarly, bro. It is gnarly.
Fuck off. But you know what I mean, though?
Yeah, for sure. I do know for sure the first St. Swithin's Day when her and Dexter went on their walk.
It's like gorgeous out.
And we know that the St. Swithin's Day that she's with Ian out to this date,
the weather is god awful. So you can see Emma in real time lowering her expectations to enjoy this time out with Ian. She goes home with him to have, as you said, an Ovaltine benda.
Oh my God.
I adopted your accent for that. Sorry. This is really sad. Dexter's still calling her.
He calls her for the rest of the night.
Yeah, makes me sad. I know that the whole point is that you really just get to see them on this one day every year, but it really just makes me think of like, what were the next few days like?
Right.
She gets all these voicemails, and what does she do?
Yes, I wonder.
Cutting forward to the following St. Swithin's Day, so July 1995, Emma wakes up at her apartment that she still shares with a roommate. She's still sharing it with the same roommate, Tilly, that she had when she graduated from college. We know this because we see her pass by the roommate in the kitchen as she's like making breakfast or something. Emma goes to the bathroom where Ian is just sitting, taking a shit.
On the toilet.
Unapologetically pooping.
What a view to wake up to in the morning.
Blech.
So you know they're a couple and they've been together now for about a year. They got together that night and they probably, you know, have been together since that day. By her expression at this part of the movie, she doesn't seem very enthused at the idea that Ian is like staying at her place. She's getting ready to go to school and they're walking and he asks her like, hey, you should come stay at my place more often. He's like, you know, I'll wash the sheets for you. And you're like, oh my God.
You can't just throw that around as a joke, Ian. You're gross or you're not gross. Okay?
So we see Emma getting ready for her day. She's walking off to school. Her students are walking by her. So she's officially 100% a teacher now because everybody's, hey, Miss M. And is that your boyfriend? Because they see her walking around with Ian. And she's talking about the play that she has going on that night. We cut to Dexter. And he's also getting ready for a show. He's getting ready for a live show that night.
A live show of a new TV show that he is the host of. And that is the premiere that same night.
You can tell he's a bit nervous. His father comes in to visit him.
Also, not for nothing, they could not have found an actor to play his father that looks less like Jim Sturgess.
Truly.
And I know maybe that was the point, like that they're supposed to be so different, but they look comically nothing alike. They look like strangers on the street. He looks nothing like either of his parents, but the way that he and his father are so distinctly different looking, I'm like...
Yeah, no, and completely different personalities.
Yes, and that's supposed to be part of it, but they don't even like resemble each other, and I thought that was like a funny casting choice. But his father definitely plays the aggrieved, frustrated, disappointed father like very well.
Very serious and unemotional.
Oof.
So his father visits him on set. His girlfriend is his co-host. So he introduces his girlfriend to his father. His girlfriend
is annoying as fucking shit.
Yeah, she is something else. And she, like, in a joking manner, asks for Mrs. M, as she says,
Woof.
to Dexter's father. And here's where we find out that Dexter's mom passed away earlier that year because he says, you know, she's no longer with us. Here we start to understand that Dexter's kind of going through it. His father is like, good luck today, because he's got this new show. But then he's like, don't listen to anything that's in the papers.
Yikes. Also, I just want to talk about Dexter's styling in this part a little bit. Everybody looks a little goofy. It's TV outfits. But Dexter's, like, face and hair, Jim Sturgess, I think, does really good face acting. And the hair and makeup department on this movie had to be really good because you're traveling through time. So they had to understand how to capture subtleties between one year and the next year. Things that we may not necessarily catch, just like we see a look and go, that's 90s, but it's not. It's 96 or it's 97 or it's 92. They did such a great job. I think especially in this part of the movie, as you're working through the mid to late 90s with Dexter's hair, with his overall demeanor, because he is in his scumbag era in this part of the movie. Like, whether it's because he's reeling after his mom's death, which could be a huge part of it, whether he's just crawling deeper and deeper into an alcohol and drug soaked hole, whether he's really letting the life of a TV presenter, someone who's low level famous, like, get to his head. He is full scumbag, and like the hair and just how much he's like a little damp from sweating fully lets you know that.
My guy's wearing leather pants with a denim vest over a red thick collared shirt. Tops it off with a black blazer.
Not the thick collar.
What is this?
Real bad.
It's giving me Chandler Bing. Doesn't Chandler wear...
Could I be wearing any more clothes?
It's 100% giving like Joey walking in with all of Chandler's clothes. It's a terrible outfit. I don't know who put this together, but it's definitely giving like mid 90s trying too hard.
Yes, not terrible on the costume department, terrible on like in the world of the movie. In the world where Dexter's a real person, what the fuck is this outfit? Costume department did the damn thing.
So he goes and finds this paper that his father told him not to pay attention to.
Lord.
Reads these terrible reviews that literally are like, he is the most annoying man on television. And calls Emma. Emma also has the article on the other end. They're both reading it at this point. And he's reading and it's like, it says, I'm the king of car crash television. And she's like, at least you're the king of it.
That's friendship right there.
She is a friend. And he pretty much tells Emma, can you just come here? I'm so much better when you're here. I'll send for a car. Please just come be here.
And that's an incredibly, if you think about it, an incredibly vulnerable admission. I'm so much better when you're here. What about your literal girlfriend, who's your co-host and co-star on this TV show? What about your dad, who's there in the flesh watching you? What about your mom's ghost? Like, what? Like, but it's Emma. It's Emma specifically. I'm so much better when you're here.
And she can't. She has a play that night.
Yeah, she has her own fucking commitment and life.
Right. No, but to him, his what he's got going on is more important than anything she can have going on. What do you mean? She tells him, no, I can't be there. I'm going to be watching when I get home. Don't do that weird thing with your voice. This is the thing that everybody's been telling him. Don't do the weird thing with your voice.
So in the movie, it's not quite a different accent. Maybe it isn't obvious to me because I'm not British. He's doing this growl with his voice where he like is like, hey, everybody. Like he's like doing that. In the book, it's much, much more explicit that he's affecting a different accent. And that's what everybody calls him out on. So everybody's like, stop doing that fucking accent. You're from Southern England. You're being really weird. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm the everyman. I have to be humble. I have to be a man of the people. And that's like inherently patronizing and shitty.
Right. In the book, when goes into this show, he can't go on without drinking.
Yep.
He ends up like taking a water bottle, emptying it out, and filling it up with vodka. And he takes it onto the show with him. But he drinks it like it's water. So he fully goes into the show, live show, brand new, completely wasted. And it doesn't hit him until he's like in mid shoot.
He's in the shot introducing the show and completely chokes because he's off his ass. In the book, it becomes more explicit that Dexter is like absolutely avalanching into a long-term alcohol addiction, right? I think it starts a little bit with him kind of being in TV life. He gets into partying a lot. He like really embraces partying. That's fine. His mom is sick. That makes it a bit worse. His mom dies. Clearly, it gets way worse. And by this point, he's fully in a problem. It's not like, oh, I drank a little bit and we're cool. No, he needs to be fucked up just to feel like he's a person. Anybody who knows someone who's had an addiction problem, reading that shit is like low-key triggering. But it's also kind of like, oh, the signs were there. Like, all of the fucking signs were there. And you feel like the people in his life are not stopping him. Or maybe they've tried and it's just been ineffective.
I think people just pin it to his lifestyle, right? To like, he's the show host. And also the people in his life who care about him are not around him every day.
Yeah.
He's around his party friends and TV people on a daily basis. He sees his family and his best friends on occasion. By the time they see him and they're like, oh shit, you're acting weird. You got a little bit of a problem. This is a grown man. What can you really say?
Yeah.
The most you can say is like, hey, you don't seem okay. Do you need help? Again, if you've had any experience with somebody who's struggling with addiction, they don't think they need help. And, you know, until it's literally too late.
Yeah.
The way they are showing it to you in the movie is not so much he's hammered at this show and physically can't continue to host it, which is what happens in the book. In the movie, they kind of just show you
he's so nervous, he's off his game.
Right. He comes off like as an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't read the room. And everybody's exasperated by him. That's the impression you get in the movie. Yeah. It doesn't go as deep into his alcoholism as it does in the book, where you see it and you're experiencing it explicitly. One thing that I found super interesting is how David Nicholls really gets into his mindset while he's fucked up and describes like exactly what a drunk, like if you drink and you've been under the influence, you've all been there when you're like, oh shit, I just had that one drink that I shouldn't have had.
We've just tipped over the edge.
It's that, but like, no, I need one more so that I can be better.
It's the lack of ability to stop, right?
Yeah.
Like, something fun that I've discussed with my therapist a bunch of times is that this kind of behavior, the choice is one, right? You make the one choice to start. And when people have like a problem, you don't keep making the choice. You made the first choice, which was like, I'm gonna have one drink and I'll be fine. It's gonna be totally cool. Mm-hmm. And David Nicholls really does do that so well. Like, he is so good at getting into Dexter. Even like one scene that I'm thinking of in particular that's already happened at this point in the course of the movie, which is when he goes and visits his mom and he's just like a mess. Like, and in the movie, it's like he's a mess because he was partying all night and then he goes to the fridge at his parents' house and like has wine. And you're like, oh, that's annoying. No. In the book, my man parties all night. So he's rolling, like probably ecstasy because it's the 90s. He's rolling, goes like home, takes like an entire glass of vodka topped with a sprig of orange juice to the face. And then it tries to like clean up enough to go see his parents, gets nervous, goes to a bar on the side of the road and gets drunk again just to get up the nerve to see his parents.
And the whole time you're in his head. At this point, when you're in his point of view, you're with him as he's rationalizing, like, I'm not feeling good. And he's like, I'm going to have the screwdriver. This is going to help me wake up. He's on the road, nearly gets into an accident. And he's like, oh, I'm out of focus. Let me stop and get a drink. That's going to pep me back up. He gets to his parents' house. He's not doing well because he sees his mom not doing well. And he's like, fuck, I need to be in a better mood. Let me just have a glass of wine. Like, to him, it's like when you need a cup of coffee. It's like, oh shit, I'm feeling a little drowsy. Let me grab a cup of coffee. That's how he's rationalizing it the whole time. And you're like, no, stop what you're doing.
No. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen it captured in such a convincing way where I found myself focusing so much on that aspect of it that I was like, wait, there's other story. There's
Yeah.
other story that is good, that is also like well written and engaging and that I like to read, but I am so like fixated on this part because it feels so fucking real.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit triggering.
Yeah.
It almost made you feel bad for him.
You see the inability to stop.
You're seeing the inability to make the right choice at that time. You definitely see it. It was beyond him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit's fucked up, man.
It is. It's real sad.
Still doesn't make it okay.
So he fucks the entire show. We cut over to Emma, and the play that she's been like the director of, the advisor for, whatever, at her school has been a success. As much of a success as a middle school play can be. Everyone is hype. All the kids are like so happy. Everyone's giving her hugs. She's got flowers. It's like very, very cute. My former theater kid heart is just glowing with pride and joy.
Did they do Les Mis?
They totally fucking did Les Mis. Anne Hathaway Les Mis time continuum right here. But
Yo, seriously.
Yes.
I fucking loved her in Les Mis.
I know
Jeez
you did.
Louise.
We cut from Emma celebrating her play, fucking killing it, to her back at her apartment that she shares with Ian. She is literally head in her hands on her temple, 5 inches away from the TV screen that's on like the kitchen table, watching Dexter's show. Just absolutely like, oh no.
She's visibly cringing.
Like, it's bad. And Ian's like, oh, it looks pretty bad, doesn't it? And Emma's like, I don't know. Like, she can't even defend it. And that's kind of how we leave this chapter of their lives. And we jump from there to July 15th, St. Swithin's Day, 1996. We see that Ian and Emma have gotten a place and moved in together. So they are meant to be just in the throes of relationship bliss.
Mm-hmm. They look blissful. They don't.
They look quite the opposite of blissful. Here, I just want to bring to mind that like the lighting in this part of the movie, the coloring in this part of the movie, Paola, keep me honest because I know you have it pulled up on your iPad. Everything is like very blue, right?
Hey, why are you exposing me?
Paola's a visual gal.
Oh, yes. It's so blue and gloomy.
Yes.
I mean, it's also London, right? It's like a overcast day.
Yeah, it's London. And then you get so many scenes between Emma and Dexter that are like orange, yellow, and sun-soaked.
True.
And so like this is blue and gloomy. Not a single person is happy, but definitely not Emma. She and Ian have moved in together. They have this tiny little flat with a little like rooftop terrace.
Fully under construction.
Yes, it's cute, but you can tell that the shit is not done. It's not the ideal home. Ian definitely just seems like a piece of shit at this point.
He's pitiful is the word.
Yes.
Because I don't think he wants to be a piece of shit. When you say piece of shit, I think like somebody who's purposely being an asshole. He's not purposely being an asshole or anything. He's just like in a pitiful place. He's in a one-sided romance.
At this point, it's painfully obvious how one-sided this romance is.
It is. Like, he even tries to like come on to her in a way that no person should come on to anybody else. It's just like, hey, you think at 10 o'clock, you want to do a little? And she's like, what? I'm going to go back to grading my papers.
Yep.
And that night, you know, he's kind of upset because Emma is meeting up with Dexter that night. And she's like, hey, you can come with, you know, you don't have to stay here. And he's like, no, I'd rather not be your third wheel.
What cool, fun jealousy.
This was laid out on their first date when Emma went out with him. And he's like, why? Was Dexter not available? You know, you're just a placeholder, my guy. I think he knows that too. Yeah. He's there because Dexter can't be. And so he says, you know, he's got a gig that night and he's doing a gig for free because he's not a good comedian. So nobody will pay him to tell jokes.
Oh, brutal.
So he's just in a pitiful place. So that night, Emma goes to meet Dexter.
So Emma and Dexter meet for dinner. Emma is wearing an outfit that feels incredibly 1996. She's wearing like a snug cocktail dress that comes kind of like right around the knees.
It's not satin, but it's got like fringe on the sleeves and fringe at the bottom.
Yeah, it do be having fringe. And she's wearing sheer black like stockings that don't suit anyone. And the shoes are also not great. But it is a 1996 outfit. Listen, I say all of that to say that maybe fashion is like not 100% her thing, but she's clearly put time and effort into getting dressed and ready for this quote unquote date, dinner with her friend.
You have not seen her this dressed up at all.
It makes this feel like a special occasion. So now you're getting the sense that because she's so dressed up, because she's putting so much thought into this, you're like, oh, maybe they don't see each other that much anymore. And that's like subliminal. That's not explicitly said until you see them together.
And also, you get the impression like, oh, to be out with Dexter now, you gotta be
fancy. You gotta be dressed with a T.
Because they're at this place with like crystal, room dividers. And
the 90s, I feel like were super like theme restaurant heavy and very like into dining out being like your personality. And this restaurant has like a serious aesthetic happening that feels very overdone.
It's so dramatic the way they introduce Dexter in this scene. Like, you guys remember the beads? Like, but these beads are crystals, right? Because they're in a fancy restaurant. And when they cut into his face, he's like behind these beads. It's all very dramatic. He's got like the Ryan Gosling like hair in front of his forehead.
Oh my God.
Thing. And then he steps through the crystal beads. And he's got a drink in his hand the whole time. And he's like swaying and like he thinks he's in a fucking movie.
And you could tell he's feeling himself. Something that I want to point out is that in this book, when you get Dexter's perspective during the scene, Dexter is like contemptuous of Emma. Like, ugh. Anyway, I'll be out of here soon. This dinner doesn't have to go on for that long.
Yeah. At this point in the book, Dexter kind of gets exasperated because Emma's always telling him what he should and shouldn't be doing. As a friend who's looking out for your best interests, and as somebody who doesn't make the best choices in life, it's she's the problem for telling him what to do, not that he's the problem for making bad decisions. So in his head, the dialogue going on is like, oh, she's gonna fucking lecture me all night, but look at what she's doing. Oh, she's a teacher. Is she a regular person? I'm famous. Like, I'm doing, you hate him.
In this part.
In this scene, for sure. Yeah. Because he's such an asshole.
Yeah, you hate him at this part, for sure. And the dinner's fucking awkward. The dinner's awkward. Dexter's awkward. He keeps standing up and leaving. So, like, taking his drink with him and quote-unquote going to the bathroom. My man is doing coke like he's, throwing snow down a slide at
They
that
don't
point.
show this, and they actually don't even reference that in the book. But you're assuming that that's what he's doing because of the way he's acting when he comes back from the bathroom, where he's jittery and like, he can't sit still and he starts to get sweaty and then he starts flirting with
the waitress. Yeah. So the moment they get their food, he stands up to go to the bathroom. Again, what is he doing? Coke. And Emma's like, what the fuck? Like, she finally kind of tells him, like, what are we doing? You're not listening to me. Like, you ask me how I'm doing. Don't ask me if you don't fucking care. And this is when the conversation goes fucking awkward. Now it becomes more of a confrontation because Dexter's like, well, I'm just trying to like talk to you. Kind of implies like, it's not really my fault that your life is busy. Like, my life is cool and I'm famous and so is my girlfriend. And like, sometimes like we're just going to be cooler and more interesting than you. And I don't know what to say about that.
He doesn't so much say that, but it's implied in his actions for sure. And then pretty much just comes out of his face and it's like, well, what are you doing? Where's the book you're supposed to be writing? Where's the, because he feels attacked because Emma is like, yo, what the
She's calling him on his bullshit.
On? He's calling him out on his shit. And he's like, where's your book? What are you doing? She's like, well, I have a job.
Yeah. I have a steady job
like,
I like. I'm a teacher and I'm good at it.
Right. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, you know what they say. Ooh. And she's like, no, tell me what the fuck they say. He's like, those who can do.
Those who can't teach.
And Emma fucking throws a drink in his face.
Well deserved.
As she should. And gets the fuck out of the restaurant. He's like, fuck you.
She should have given him a swift knee to the dick after that shit.
He chases after her because now he's like, I'm sorry. That's not how I meant it.
How else do you mean it?
Up. At this point, they've come to a crossroads in their friendship.
It's become obvious throughout the course of this very awkward dinner as we said, with regard to like her outfit and stuff, they have not seen each other very frequently. They haven't been keeping very much in touch, and they haven't really even been talking consistently. So even like her wanting to tell him about how her job is going and him being that dismissive, it's like triply as offensive and as frustrating and disrespectful.
And she goes on to say, like, I want to talk to you about my relationship. I want to talk to you about how I'm in a loveless relationship, how I hate my apartment. I want to be able to talk to you, and I can't. And one thing that she says, if I can't talk to you, then what is the point of you? What is the point of this friendship if I can't also count on you the way that you count on me?
And by this point that she's saying this, they have made it outside. So this restaurant is like an underground situation, I guess, and they have to go up a central staircase where she's essentially yelling at him, and everybody can see them as they're ascending the staircase to get back to ground level. So now he's like trying to calm her down. They get up onto the street. The street, again, keep me honest, looks wet. It feels like it's rained on this day.
Look at you paying attention to the environment. It rained that day at some point.
So if I can't talk to you, what's the point of you? She's just like, dude, you know what? You're not who you used to be. We're different. Maybe we've outgrown each other. Like, it was cool for the time that we had it, and like, I'm grateful, but it's just not, that's not what it's meant to be anymore. And she turns around and begins to walk away. She probably gets maybe 20, 30 feet away and stops kind of short. And Dexter, this entire time that she's walking away, is like, Emma, like, come back. Like, it's fine. Like, just like a weird time. Like, everything's fine. Like, you know, don't make it a big deal. Just come back. She turns around and goes back. You, as the viewer, let's say you don't have any knowledge of the book, you're like, oh, God damn it, Emma. Like, stand on your principles, you know? Like, get away from this fucking guy. Like, he's being such a dick. And she goes back and she wraps him up in this tight hug. The perspective of the viewer, you're looking at Dexter as he's over Emma's shoulder. They're in the middle of this hug, and he's got this little like self-satisfied face. Like, of course, I knew you would come right back.
And you know, he starts saying like, there, see, it's gonna be fine. Like, we're gonna be fine.
It's Dex and Em and Dex. We're gonna be fine. And we cut back over to Emma's face over Dexter's shoulder, and she goes, Dexter, I love you so much. And part of you is almost like, big reveal, but like, I love you so much.
Yeah.
But I don't like you anymore.
And with that, she walks away.
And just leaves him like gaping.
Well, he's losing somebody he loves. Yes. Second time in a short time span. But also the first time that Emma, I think, lets him go in a way.
Yeah. And this is a little bit more explicit in the book just because it's a written medium. But he's very much like, of course Emma will be there. Oh, Emma, she's so steadfast and dependable and trustworthy. Totally. Emma, of course. Like, he relies on her more than he does any girlfriend, more than he does people in his family. I just want to call this out. I think I mentioned this actually before. So in the book, both Emma and Dexter have a sibling. They each have one sister who's only mentioned when the antagonism between them and their respective sister is brought up. They don't have good relationships with their siblings. I feel like in some ways when they befriend other people, even in the way that they befriend each other, they depend on each other the way that a person with like a healthier sibling relationship would depend on their sibling.
Right. Yeah. Like, you're always there unconditionally, no matter what.
100%. Exactly. After this heartbreaking scene, Dexter does not have a fabulous friend group. He does not even have a fabulous Emma friend.
No, all his friendships have been superficial outside of Emma.
Correct.
They've all been temporary. They've all been for exposure and access and partying. Those aren't real friendships. Those people don't stick around. So at the end of this St. Swithin's Day in 1996, we've left Dexter and Emma with their friendship effectively broken up. Join us for part 2 to see what happens next as we continue talking through this movie. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please leave a review anywhere you get your podcasts. Come and find us on Instagram at SisFlixPodcast or shoot us an email at sisflixpodcast@gmail.com.